Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. All right, folks, Big Paul here today with another anabolic Q&A. We got some good ones to cover today. We're going to talk about BP meds raising potassium levels and how to deal with that. We're going to talk about pitting schedule. We're going to talk about blasting and cruising and mixing up esters and a bunch of other great questions. We're going to dig into all that in just 1 second. Warning, this content is for entertainment and educational purposes only. This video is brought to you by First Detachment Nutrition. Battle tested, expert formulated. Use discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off. So first question comes from Kitty Family Farm LLC. Kitty Family Farm LLC asks, what's your pinning schedule, sites, and injection frequency like? It depends. Contest prep, and when I am on full blast, I will pin every day. You can take a look at Steroid Plotter. It's a site I've pulled up many times for people on this show to show them what injection frequency does to hormone levels and fluctuations. I find that if you pin every day that you get more stable hormone levels, less estrogen conversion, and less DHT conversion. Side effects tend to stay more level with frequent injection schedules. Now, with that said, it's a pain in the ass. Literally. Injecting every day sucks, and there are periods of times that I want to take a break from it, usually when I'm on cruise, or if I've backed my doses down for some reason, I'll pull back. For example, right now I'm in the post-show period where I pulled my doses back pretty significantly, about half what I was doing on prep, and so I'm just injecting every other day right now because I'm just frankly tired of injecting every day. Is this ideal? No, but it's what I'm doing for right now, just to give myself a break from injecting every day. Plus, injecting every day, you can build up scar tissue and things like that and have pain from the injection site and injecting so frequently. Typically, what I do is use a 25 gauge, 5/8 inch insulin needle. I find that's big enough to draw out the oil without much issue. It's a little slow, but it's not like pulling through a very small insulin needle. And I will use that daily. I'll fill that up. I'll use that daily for my shots. Sometimes it requires 2 shots. But that small needle doesn't seem to leave all the scar tissue and cause all the problems, like, say, with the 22. I remember back in the day when we, like when I first started using PEDs in the 90s and early 2000s, we were using 21 gauge 2-inch needles or 1.5-inch needles. It was insane. These big freaking harpoons that we used to use. It was nuts. So I usually just do my injections at the same time every day so I don't forget to do them. And that's another advantage with the daily injections. You don't forget to do them. Sometimes when I'm doing every other day, I'm like, did I take my shot yesterday or did I take it 2 days ago? I don't remember, or sometimes I just completely forget. But that's how I do it. That's how I break it up. Bodybuilding Media asks, what is the best compound for increasing hunger on a bulk? We all hit that point in a bulk where you just don't want to eat anymore. I get there myself. There's only so much you can push the food before you tap out. Typically what I do, rather than using compounds, is to shift the foods that I eat to using higher calorie, lower density food. So I will, at some points, I'll start adding in things like fruit juice, even some sugar-free, or not sugar-free, but fat-free sugar candies like gummy bears and things like that to get the calories down. Breakfast cereal, things like that. That will help me to get it down. I know it's probably not the most healthy thing for you, but nothing we do in bodybuilding is health conscious. There's only so much meat and rice you can eat before you tap out, and then I know heads are going to explode too, but I get to a point in the off season where I just stop eating vegetables. There's no way I could get down the amount of rice that I need to get down and still eat vegetables. People are going to lose their goddamn minds over that, but what I'll do is sub in a vegetable powder instead of eating whole vegetables, and I'll use a fiber supplement at night. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do to get the calories in. I know it's not optimal for health. We're talking about bulking. We're not talking about living to be 100. So those of you that are going to freak out about not eating vegetables, that's why I do it. Now, when it comes to compounds, some things can help your hunger. I've noticed when I take insulin that my hunger increases. I've heard people say MK677 helps. I've never personally used it. I also hear people say that equipoise makes them hungry. I've never personally experienced that. I don't notice any difference in my hunger when I'm on equipoise. I have also noticed that there are things that suppress hunger that we should avoid. There's definitely compounds that suppress hunger. I don't want to eat when I'm taking orals. Orals always crush my appetite. Stress your liver out. I notice the trend. When I take Tren, my appetite goes way down. So I avoid compounds that are going to suppress my appetite. There are certain supplements that seem to suppress your appetite, certain compounds that will suppress your appetite. I've noticed that when I take a lot of berberine that my appetite kind of gets crappy. At least I have noticed that anecdotally. And I also that metformin will crush your appetite. So that is a downside of metformin. Metformin will absolutely nuke your appetite. So avoid the things that are going to suppress your appetite, I think is better. And start, if you have to, start swapping out some rice for a little bit of sugar or sugary carb sources so you can get those extra calories in. All right, Gym Bros, I'm going to interrupt this regularly scheduled broadcast to tell you about the new Science of HGH ebook by Kurt Havens. It is available on the Anabolic Bodybuilding website for download right now. There is a link in the video description below for the ebook if you want to pick it up. It is probably the most comprehensive ebook about performance enhancement use with HGH, over 100 pages of information with references, and it's awesome. Go check it out. All right, next question is from Ballsy602, BAW. Not what you're thinking. Ballsy asks, for those that use BP meds, how do you avoid having high potassium levels? I think more specifically, if I remember it's ARBs that will raise potassium levels. I know Telmisartan is famous for that. I've seen people become hyperkalemic on Telmisartan. I personally pull it out on contest prep. My blood pressure usually goes down anyway. There seems to be a belief now that you should just take blood pressure medicines no matter what. I think if they're necessary, if you're having issues with blood pressure, then sure, use them. I've been on and off blood pressure medicines for 25 years or something like that, maybe even longer. I think since college, actually. So it's probably more like 30 years. Hypertension runs in my family. Even when I was 170 pounds, I was hypertensive. So I have to be on a BP med at all times. I would say the biggest thing you can do is just not eat foods with a lot of potassium in them. Stay away from potatoes. Stay away from bananas, crap like that. If you have problems with your potassium levels going up, or you can ask your doctor about meds that would not elevate potassium levels and cause hyperkalemia. That is another option as well. So Levi Shitford 6558, that's a great username, ask about thoughts on using longer esters for cruising and throwing a short ester on top for a blast. I don't know what the point of that would be other than just getting in things quicker when you start your blast, but I typically run the same crap year round. People vastly overthink this stuff. I usually run a longer ester testosterone because I'm going to be on testosterone 365 days a year, so I don't see any compelling reason to use something like Prop unless I'm at the end of contest prep. So what I will do is I run test and anthate as my base compound, and then my blasts are typically Primo. That's usually what I use for my secondary compound, which is also an enanthate. I think it takes an enanthate something like 4 to 5 weeks to peak. So you have a nice steady taper up when you go back on blast. I always say don't overthink it. Just keep things simple. If you wanted something quick in, quick out, that's the only time that it would be compelling to use a faster ester. I don't like this whole idea of front loading. All I found that when people front load is they make their blood pressure go through the roof. They get bloated. They have a bunch of side effects, and then you're dealing with those side effects. I think it's better to taper up. And why would you want to front load if you can get the most out of low doses anyway at the beginning of your cycle? Dommy8512 asks, say you do 15 reps on the first set, and your reps drop down to 8 on the second. Would you need to lower your weights the next week? I would argue if your weights are dropping by half on your second set, that should not happen. Maybe a 1 to 2 rep drop is normal, but if you are dropping that much from your first to your second set, likely the problem is your rest times are too short. I get guys all the time think that short rest times are more productive. We're not trying to run a sprint with our workouts. I don't time rest times. I get a lot of guys ask me how much time do I take between sets. Dante Trudel told me a long time ago, and this has lived with me, take as much time as you need. That's how much time you take between sets. It's really that simple. You know, now granted on his rest pause sets, there was a set time period, but just take what you need to get ready between sets. You don't need to overthink it. If your performance sucks from set 1 to set 2, like you're describing here, like a 50% drop in reps, you probably are going too soon. I don't see a point in that if you're not getting optimal performance out of your set. So take a little bit extra time, maybe another minute, and I bet you're probably going to be doing like 12 reps instead of dropping down to 8. So just give yourself a little more time between your sets. Make sure you're ready to do your next set. And bigger exercises, like heavier exercises like squats, deadlifts, bench presses, you're probably going to need a little more time. For ancillary movements like doing cable curls or something like that, you probably only need a minute between sets. It's not going to be a bunch of time. WConDT asks, since PED usage in over-fat bodybuilders typically makes them more likely to convert estrogen, should naturally leaner athlete maybe convert to more DHT? And do you think that conversion environment is changeable through weight fluctuations in the same person? I get what you're saying here. So there is this thing where the fatter that you are, the more aromatase that you make, and the more aromatase you make, the more testosterone converts to estrogen. That is a general rule of thumb. I have not seen it be 100% true with everybody. I have seen some wild variations from person to person in how they convert testosterone to DHT and to estrogen. I've seen some people that are super heavy converters to DHT and don't convert a lot to estrogen. I've seen some dudes that convert heavily to estrogen and not to DHT. The people that are heavy estrogen converters, more often than not, tend to be fat guys. The people that are heavy converters to DHT and low converters to estrogen tend to be your leaner guys. Tend to be skinnier, tend to be more athletic looking. As a general rule of thumb. Now, that's not always 100% true. I have seen some people, they're outliers, they're very rare, that almost convert nothing to estrogen. I have seen that before. The same is true with DHT. I have seen some guys that convert almost none. I have seen other dudes, even skinny dudes, that will convert a crap ton to estrogen. Now, with that said, the general rule does apply, and I have seen this hold true through most people that I have worked with in the past. The leaner you are, the less that you convert to estrogen. I have also seen, as guys get bigger, as guys have more muscle, as they maintain more leanness throughout the year, as they've done multiple cuts, I'm an example of it, they convert less to estrogen. When I was a fatty, when I first came back to training, I had to be on an AI running 200 milligrams of TRT. Now I can run 750 milligrams of test, no AI, and I have my estradiol is right in the normal range. So it definitely has changed as my body composition has improved, as my muscle mass has increased. I have 100% seen a change in that, and I've seen that with other people as well. After you go through a few contest preps, after you get leaner, after you get bigger, you tend to convert less testosterone to estrogen. So there is something to that. Now, with that in mind, nobody's the same. I don't like to speak in absolutes. These are general rules, but typically your fat dudes are going to be higher estrogen converters. Your skinny dudes are going to be lower estrogen converters and convert more to DHT. That's generally what I see. All right, next question here is from my friend Blue STI. He's been on the channel forever. What's up, Paul? If someone needs estrogen control, do you think it's better to use an AI or just add in Masteron on the Blast or Cruise? In working through with Kurt Havens and Dr. Todd, they seem to have figured out that Masteron's actually not that great at lowering estrogen. It seems to act more like a serum, and that Primo seems to be more effective at lowering estrogen. One of its metabolites is a suicide inhibitor of not estradiol, of aromatase. Sorry if I can speak correctly here. So I have been running Primo year round, and I have noticed that my estrogen does stay lower when I run Primo. I'm kind of off the Masteron bandwagon. I like it for contest prep, but I have found Masteron in the off season to be kind of cruddy for putting on size, to be quite frank with you. I know a lot of people love it. I guess if you're running your test high enough, it doesn't matter. Someone like, I know Chase runs his test super high and stacks it with Masteron. It probably doesn't matter at that point. It's just something that's supplementing his testosterone and probably keeping some side effects at bay. But I like Primo as my secondary compound. Primo, I think, is better for controlling estrogen. And personally, I would rather, this is just my thought process, even if the AI is safe, I would rather run another anabolic or more of an anabolic than run an AI to deal with my estrogen. That's my 2 cents. Why not use less drugs and use something that's going to make you grow too? That's my thought process. Mac Payne Baby asks about thoughts on running Anadrol the last 5 to 7 days before a bodybuilding show if you're already peeled. I wouldn't run it 5 to 7 days out because Anadrol seems to cause you to retain water. Now, I do know that a lot of pros are running it on show day to help them fill out. At that point, you're probably already on a diuretic. You've already done a water cut. I wouldn't change compounds that soon out from a show. Usually the last 2 weeks, you want to be dropping injectables and keeping your orals the same. I wouldn't do anything that could potentially screw with water retention, and certainly adding an Anadrol that early could mess with water retention. So it may work, it may not, but I would not roll that dice because nothing sucks more than spending all that time getting ready for a show, being ripped, and then screwing it up right at the end. I would rather play things conservative. That's me. Because there's really no Hail Mary pass you can throw at the end that's going to make that big of a difference. Usually what wins on stage is being ripped. Usually the most ripped guy on stage wins. And if you need to throw some Hail Mary pass to fill out, you probably just weren't big enough in the first place. That would be what I would say. Now, certainly you can fill out a little bit, you can be flat, but I would rather err on the side of being a little flat and being shredded than getting on stage being a water puffball. Yusef Musa asked the question, is 4 units of HGH enough, or have you ever run more? Oh, Yusef, 4 units is what I eat for breakfast. I think really to get the super physiological benefits from HGH, you really do not see them until you get north of 5 units. Then it seems that most pros that I talk to, I have found recently are running a lot more HGH than I had originally assumed. I was wrong, very wrong, about thinking that guys weren't running a lot of HGH. Some of the top competitors that I have talked to and have been in touch with are running a lot of HGH. And the rule of thumb that I've heard thrown around in pro circles, at least the open class guys, take as much as you can afford and tolerate if you want to be an open class bodybuilder. Now, that's not to say that I'm recommending that for you and for your goals. Be careful, be educated, be smart. But if you want to be an open class bodybuilder, if you want to be the biggest guy on stage, sometimes you got to throw the heat at it. And that's what these guys are doing. Most of these guys are running crazy doses of HGH and pushing things very hard. I recently moved up to, I think I'm running 16 units. And this is just in the last couple weeks. Typically, I stayed at around 9 or 10 before. I'm running half pharma, half generic. I'm splitting it between the two. The only reason I'm doing that is for money, to save a little bit of money. So I wanted to give the pharma a try and see if there's any difference. So far, I don't know. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. A lot of people swear by pharma. I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I haven't noticed a huge difference. But I have noticed a big difference since I pushed my doses up. I stay leaner, I stay fuller, I have a denser look. It has changed how my physique looks. Now, ultimately, it's up to you and what your goals are. All right, folks, that's all I got for you on this one. Hopefully you found this one helpful. If you want to support me, please support my sponsor, First Detachment Nutrition. Use the discount code AB10 at checkout for 10% off your order. Quality supplements formulated by the man himself, Justin Harris. Thank you for watching. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.